Welcome to Artists, Icons, and Entrepreneurs, the podcast that dives deep into the stories of trailblazers who shape our world. Our co-host, Lulu Benavides, is a seasoned entrepreneur in the beauty industry, is a photographer, artist, and the proud owner of Lulu's The Salon in Galveston, Texas. Our other co-host, Sue Croconis Hansen, is a visionary in the entrepreneurial world with years of experience in business innovation and development. Together, they bring you insights, inspiration, and the journeys of remarkable individuals who have made their mark. And with that, let's get started. Marcus Geeter is a kind of artist who makes every brushstroke feel like a pep talk. A Chicago-based celebrity makeup artist with over 40 years in beauty, fashion, and broadcast media. Marcus has earned national acclaim through campaigns spanning print, film, and live television. Viewers first met him on ABC affiliates, where his on-air demos delivered expert tips with an approachable, uplifting style. Behind the scenes, Marcus leads creative teams for editorial and advertising shoots, all while maintaining a thriving private clientele. His signature philosophy, "You don't have to be perfect to be wonderful," guides his fresh, radiant approach to makeup, celebrating healthy, luminous skin over cover-up. Known for his ability to honor diverse complexions and cultural aesthetics, Marcus has crafted looks for the runway, red carpet, and camera-ready talent alike. His mastery of skin, color theory, and product chemistry makes him a go-to educator for masterclasses, while his expertise shapes trend-driven content for corporate beauty partners. Online, he's the makeup therapist, the warm and wise host of Beauty Therapy Sundays, where he blends beauty tips with confidence-boosting conversation for over 300,000 followers. Whether he's prepping skin for HD, mentoring aspiring artists, or offering a dose of encouragement online, Marcus's mission remains constant: elevate beauty, educate generously, and remind everyone that authenticity is the best foundation. Please welcome to the podcast, Marcus Geeter.
Greetings, Marcus. We're so glad that you're here with us. We get to talk to the great Marcus Geeter, who's very well known in this beauty industry and social media. But we here at Artists, Icons, and Entrepreneurs, we like to put the spotlight on the person. So can you tell us what first drew you to makeup artistry, and how did living in Chicago and having those roots influence your aesthetic?
You know, first of all, I want to thank you, Lulu and Sue, for having me on. I so appreciate you guys inviting me on to your beautiful podcast. I really appreciate it. My career has happened really pretty organically because it really wasn't something I thought I was going to be doing. I grew up as a theater kid, taking piano lessons and voice lessons and dance lessons, and and I thought that I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be a performer. And my makeup training, happened also pretty organically without me even thinking about it. When I was in high school, I was in the drama department. My high school teacher, Mrs. Hall, who I'm still very much in contact with today and love her so much, she taught us a class in theatrical makeup. So that's how my interest started to peak, but still not thinking, I'm going to be a makeup artist. It was just something that I enjoyed. So when it was time for me to go to college, I wanted to go to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York City. But my father, being the typical Capricorn man that he was, he's like, we're going to do what we're doing. he's like, if I'm paying for it, I think you might want to rethink that, right? So and at that time, we're talking about, I'm 115 years old. So, we're talking about years ago when everybody was talking about going into computers. It was the beginning of the computer age. So I actually, you guys, started out as a computer programming major.
Oh, wow.
I did. Wow. And
I didn't see that coming.
I know a lot of people didn't know that. And I realized very quickly that I was analytical, but not in that way. So I switched my major to marketing and fashion, which was something a little bit more creative. So my degree is actually in marketing and fashion. But I was also unofficially involved in the theater department because I loved theater. And so I continued my studies with theatrical makeup. In the summer months, I would go and take special effects seminars. I went to makeup school, but I'm still not thinking about it being a career. I thought I was going to be a fashion buyer. That's what I thought I was going to be. So a friend of mine who was an actress, she asked me to go along with her to do her makeup for a photo shoot for her headshots. So I went along with her, and Lulu, I don't know if you remember the wonderful Daniel DuVernay. the photographer. He was the photographer. We went in, I did her makeup, and he called the next week and said, can you do somebody else for me? And I said, sure. And so I went in and I did somebody else for him. In a couple weeks, he called again. He said, I have a couple of people I'd like you to do. I said, okay, great. And then and once you're in the business, you start meeting other people. You start meeting. And so my career actually started to grow. When I graduated from college, I told my dad, I said, I think I want to try. I'm doing makeup now, and it's really interesting, and I just want to kind of see what happens, where it goes. And my father was stunned, and he was like, look, and he was so confused because my dad was a very practical man who knew, even though he allowed me to play as a child, he knew nothing about entertainment. He did not. And so he was like, okay. And so I said, Dad, I just want to try this, Dad. I just want to see what happens. I've always been into theater and acting and all this stuff. And so this opportunity has kind of presented itself naturally. And I'm interested in it. I'm making money. And he says, okay, he goes, what we will do, he says, I will help you for 6 months. And then after that, you're on your own, kid. So I said, okay. So I just kind of hit the ground running, meeting people, meeting more photographers. People started calling, I got an agent, all of these things. And the career started to grow pretty quickly because I don't know, Lulu, if you knew, and Sue, you knew, I was a model first.
Wow. I did not know
that. Yeah. I was a model from the time I was 17 until I was 28.
Wow.
So I was represented by Shirley Hamilton. So I worked in Chicago, worked in Canada, so I was always involved, in the business in some way. And so anyway, I hit the ground running. My career started to develop. I felt a little bit more confident. And then I told my dad, I said, Dad, I appreciate your help. Not that he was giving me money all the time. He was not, because I really was hustling. And so I said, I think after 4 months, I think I'm going to be okay. And he said, okay. All right. And so my father was just flabbergasted. And so anyway, so when I started getting these really great jobs, in New York and in California, he was like, okay, now how are you going to get there? I said, they're bringing me in. They're flying me in. He said, who's paying for that? I said, my client's paying for it, Dad. And he was like, well, where are you going to stay? I said, Dad, they're putting me up. And then when I told him, because he was like flabbergasted, and then he said, well, what are they paying you? And I told him, he was like, he couldn't believe it, the kind of money that was, he was like, wow. And so, 40 years in, this is really interesting, and I'll move on. 40 years in, my father was 93 years old. And we had this discussion, and he was very, very proud of my career. After the 40 years, he knew all the lingo, he knew the knowledge, he knew the language, he knew everything. He was very, very proud. And so he was 93. He goes, I have to tell you something. We're just having a discussion about all my experiences. He says, when you first told me you were going to do this, he said, I was terrified for you. Yeah. And he used that word terrified. And I said, Dad, terrified is a very strong word. He goes, he said, I was thinking, how is my child going to make a living doing that? Right. And so he was concerned, like any parent would be, how their child is going to support themselves. But like I said, in the end, he was so proud. He understood all the language, all the lingo. And so that's basically how my, career began. But I also had some really great mentors, really great people in my life. The late, great Ernest Collins was so instrumental in developing my career and helping me with the business part of my career. The late, great Reggie Wells, I used to assist him, when I first started my career. And, he was like a megastar makeup artist in the business. And I have to tell you a funny story. My first time when I worked with Reggie, we were doing a beauty campaign, and he gave me one of the young ladies to do. And so she came out of the makeup room, and he kind of took a look, and he said, that's cute what you've done. He said, but I need you to go back in there and carve out her face. So that's really cute what you just did. And he goes, but I need you to go back in there and carve out her face. So I had some really, really, really great mentors. And that's why now in my career, I mentor young people. And in regards to Chicago, Chicago was one of the best places for me to really start my career because we're serious about our craft. It's not about being stars. It's about the work. It's about the work. In Chicago. And so I'm so grateful for having that experience and having Chicago always being my base. Obviously, I've traveled all over the world working, but, I've always lived and worked in Chicago. So I'm very grateful for that city, and that city to this day is still supporting me as an artist. So I'm very, very grateful for that.
That's great.
Well, great.
Yeah.
Marcus, I think I first met you in Chicago,
Yes.
matter of fact,
Right.
with Carlos Venezuela.
I love Carlos. I love Carlos. He was so good to
Everybody
me.
loves Carlos. Everybody loves Carlos.
So good to me. I traveled with him. He would book me on jobs, and he's wonderful. He's a wonderful man.
Yeah, and he's the one that introduced me to you and
Yes.
the Latino fashion group
Yes.
that we were with. He formed that group. And now, I don't know if you know that Carlos is in Puerto Vallarta.
Yeah, he lives in Mexico. Yes. Yeah, because we still keep in contact. He and I still keep in contact with each other. Yeah.
Yeah, so I met you back in Chicago with Carlos, and he had the Latino fashion group.
Right.
And you were able first, I got to talk about myself. You did my makeup, for the photo shoot for, the magazine. And of course you did the models also for the Latino fashion group. But what drew me to you was that you were so kind.
Thank you. I appreciate
You were so
that.
giving, and to not only to myself and everybody there, but to the models.
Yeah.
So can you tell the audience about the Latino fashion group and what that whole makeup artistry, how you came up with that particular makeup?
It was usually when I am booked on an assignment, I usually have parameters that they give me. Mm-hmm. They say, Marcus, we want, a smoky eye, and we want, nude lips. Or they'll say we want a very, very clean face, but we want bright lips. So when I worked on those projects for the Latino fashion group, of course, I was given parameters that I needed to follow. But I remember that being such, number one, working with that group was phenomenal. And Carlos is just an angel, to work with. And I remember it being a very exciting time. And that one particular show, when I worked with you, was a very, exciting show and lots of energy. So that's what I really remember about those times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Well, Marcus, let's talk about the makeup therapist.
Yes.
Your mantra is you don't have to be perfect to be wonderful.
Right.
I love that. Talk to us a little bit about what's behind that and your whole philosophy on wellness and self-confidence.
Okay.
That's woven into your technical style that you're so known for.
What it is, particularly when I was starting my channel, Marcus Geeter, the makeup therapist, and I do this segment called Beauty Therapy Sundays. What I wanted to create for my channel was a realistic place for women to come to get information, beauty information. Because, now we're in the Instagram age and the TikTok age, and everything is big and over the top, right? Mm-hmm. So, a lot of these channels, these beauty channels you go on, these young people are piling all this makeup on themselves, and that is not a realistic thing for most women. So I wanted to create a space where women could come, find out practical information, practical things about makeup that they could actually use in their lives. But at the same time, I wanted to feed the soul. I wanted to feed the spirit, because really beauty is more than about hair and makeup. It's about the way you feel. It is about connection. It's about being connected to your family, your friends, your community, to people you don't know. It's about human connection. That's what beauty is about to me. And so when I was developing this channel, I wanted to make sure that people could come and get great information about beauty tips and skincare tips, but also to get information that would feed their spirit. So I do a piece on the show that's called Life Lessons. And what I do is I share lessons that I've learned in my life that hopefully will help someone in their life, hopefully will help their journey to be easier and lighter. So those things are very important to me. So even as an artist now, when I enter a makeup room, of course, my job is to bring to life what an art director or creative director has come up with. That is my job, right? And so I need to get as close to that as possible. But my job as an artist also is to make that talent who is sitting in the chair comfortable and feel confident and feel beautiful. So a way for me to do that is to always connect with them on a human level. So we talk about our lives. I talk to them about my life and my experiences. They talk to me about theirs. So now we have a connection. So when they get on that set, they can be completely big, they can completely open and completely authentic, which brings something even more to that project. So that's how I always approached makeup, because makeup and beauty is so much more than just, the aesthetics. It is about your spirit, your soul, your humanity. That's what beauty is to me.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I love it.
So, so many years you've done on-air demonstrations for
Yes.
ABC affiliates.
Yes.
And you talked a little bit about the live TV lessons. Can you tell the audience what keeps you calm under all that pressure?
When I first started, I have to admit I had some great teachers. I was a regular beauty contributor, a guest beauty contributor on ABC7 in Chicago for 8 years. And I had some wonderful mentors because my background is not journalism. So I remember my first day working on set. I was working with Linda Yu and Sylvia Perez, divas, and in the business in Chicago, icons. And particularly Linda could not have been nicer. And she was saying, Marcus, okay, this is what we're going to do. I need you to do it. She said, I need you to be big on camera. She said, it's going to feel like you're being not authentic, like you're being over the top. She said, but when you see it, it translates to looking kind of normal on camera. And so I said, okay. And so I still was a little bit apprehensive about it, doing kind of being over the top. And so I wasn't as over the top as I should have been. So when I got home and I looked at the segment, I said, oh my God, I look like a corpse. On camera. So the next time when I went in, I said, Linda, you were right. I need to be bigger. And so I became bigger. And she goes, don't be afraid. And this is the lesson. She says, don't be afraid to let your light shine.
Wow.
Don't be afraid to be who you are. She said, be Marcus Geeter on camera. And that gave me permission, to be me on camera. She says, you're not a reporter. You are Marcus Geeter. So be who you are on camera. So that was a turning point for me, when I started doing television and started doing, more on camera things. And then I became, a paid spokesperson for Gillette and P&G. And so and so they would basically hire me to be on these newscasts to promote products. And so that really prepared me for that. So it helped me to be more relaxed and more authentic. So I'm always telling young people, I say, if you also want to get into the contributor part of the business, which you should because you want to try to do everything if you want to be a successful artist, remember, go in your authentic self. That is very, very important.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I know, turning the page a little bit here, your skin first philosophy.
Yes.
You're really known for this luminous, healthy.
Yeah.
I always think of, you have to have a good canvas first.
Yes.
That's what I spend my.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's your go-to product or what's your go-to advice?
I always say what you want to do is really, really take care of your skin. Skin is very important. When your skin is great, you don't have to use so much makeup, and so I'm really, really into skincare. I mean, if I took you guys into my washroom right now, you would say it looks like a science project in there. I have products, I have, red light machines, I have, microcurrent machines and all sorts of things in there. So it's really, really about skincare first. And when I'm working with particularly young new models, I really express to them, I say, really take really great care of your skin. Find yourself a really great esthetician, if you can afford to do that. I mean, I have an amazing esthetician, Alicia Robinson, who takes care of my skin, and I try to see her at least once a month. So it's always skincare first. And particularly in this business, when you want to be a model or you want to be an actor, this is your product. Your face, your face is your product. So you want to really, really take great care of that. And I'm also a person, when I'm mentoring young people, I am that person who believes makeup is not a mask. Makeup should not be used as a mask. Makeup is used as a tool to enhance your natural good look. And that's how I even approach it when I'm working on set. Take for instance, if the art director says, Marcus, we want, just a nice clean look, but you could do a few accents. We'll leave that up to you. So I take a look at that talent's face, and if maybe that talent may have a slightly hooded eye, and she has great lips. So what I'm going to do is I might put an accent lash on her eyelash just to kind of soften her eyes, but I might do a really, really dynamic lip. So the focus is on her lips. So I'm taking what I feel is the best part of that face, accenting that part, and then I'm taking the part that may be weaker and sort of making it sort of disappear, where people don't really focus on that so much. So I like to approach makeup in a very aesthetic way, but not ever as a mask. I hate when it looks like clay, and then you take it off and you put it on and say, "Is that her? Who?" Was that her? It doesn't look like the same person, So makeup shouldn't be used that way. And so, and I think women want to find ways to use makeup to enhance their natural good looks. They don't want to walk around looking like they have a mask on.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Marcus, you talk one of the things that you do. You educate other makeup artists, and you do classes. And in these classes, you really dive into product chemistry and color theory. Can you tell the audience exactly what your educational program is all about?
I teach for IllinoisCosmetology.com, and so I teach actually a lot of hairstylists, a couple of times a year. And I teach them about theory when it comes to how you approach makeup. So, number one, take for instance, how do you choose a foundation for someone? How do you choose that? Well, first of all, you need to know what their skin tone is. And so there's 3 skin tones: warm, cool, and neutral, okay? So what are they? How do you know what those are? All right. So basically, what is skin tone? Number one, well, the tone of your skin is the color of your skin, right? So the tone of my skin is brown. The tone of your skin is beige. You know what I'm saying? So, and then the undertone, what is that? The undertone is that color that lives underneath the skin. So if you guys are looking at me now, okay, you could see my tone is brown, correct? But if you look closer at me, you see, oh, that's kind of a yellow cast underneath his skin. So that means I have warm skin. So that determines the colors that are appropriate for me to wear, or that person to wear if they have warm skin. So that means they would probably look better in corals, peach, bronzes, earth tones. If they're going to wear anything pink, that pink should be on the red side. Second skin tone, okay, I'm looking at your skin, Sue. Your tone of your skin is beige, all right? And I'm looking closely. I can't really see on camera, but if you had, if I was looking at your skin and that undertone, right now it looks like you have a little bit of a red undertone to your skin, it looks like to me. So you would be more of a cool skin person. All right. So the skin is beige, the undertone is cool. What makes that cool? So if the skin is a little bit thinner, sometimes you might see the veins underneath a little bit. So when that blood goes underneath the skin, it turns blue or green, correct? So that becomes more of a cool tone. So what colors would be best for you? The best colors for you, like if you're going to wear pink or whatever, blue violets would be better for you. So those are cooler tones would be better for you. Now take for instance, if I was looking at you, Lulu, obviously Lulu, you have warm skin, but if I was looking at you and I'm looking at a beige skin tone, but there's no blue, no green, no yellow, then you become neutral skin. So you would be a neutral skin person. So a neutral skin person can walk a fine line between both worlds, between cool and warm. So that I teach my kids, number one, or my students, they're not kids, they're adults. I teach my, they came 115, but I teach my students about that's so important. How to choose the colors on the person that you're working on, but also those colors also pertain to the colors that you wear, the colors that you purchase when you shop for clothing. And it's the same process. So those things are important to me. And then I teach them about how to choose products. I think, I tell them, I said, now when I started in makeup, there was a difference between your drugstore brand product and your department store product, right? There was a huge difference in the quality of those products. But now that gap has closed completely. And so when you're in a department store, what you're doing is you're purchasing, number one, the packaging, because the packaging is beautiful. You know, it has that golden crust thing, little diamond in it, all these things. And the product, what I tell my students is that the packaging is actually more expensive than the product itself. So don't be fooled by that. That's the second thing you're paying for. You're paying for the line woman or man who is selling the product to you. You're paying for their salary. The third thing you're paying for is the supermodel behind you with the big picture behind, the supermodel who has a $1 million contract. You know, you're paying for her salary. The fourth thing you're paying for is you're paying for the expensive counter space that they rent in the department store. So all of those things have to be factored into the cost of that quad eyeshadow that's going to cost you $85, right? Right. When you go into a drugstore, it's on the shelf. There's no one to sell it to you. It's in an inferior, or it's a cheaper packaging. So it's kind of a plastic packaging. The counter space is not as expensive. So all of those discounts go into you. So I tell them when you're building your kit, it is not necessary to build your kit with all of these expensive brands, but build your kit with things that you know, quality brands that you know that work. All right. Because I tell them that makeup, it's just pigment. That's all it is. It's pigment. And you are the artist, and you determine what you're going to do with that pigment. You know, I've made lip gloss out of eyeshadow. By just scraping a little eyeshadow and mixing it into a little Vaseline or a little clear lip gloss, and made a lip gloss out of, the eyeshadow, because I realized, I know being an artist over 40 years, that makeup is just pigment. So I tell them, I say, you are the artist, you are in control. And that's what I like to teach my students,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And going back to what you were saying earlier about skincare.
Yes.
I've always been around makeup artists and people, and so many times this is the thing. Spend your money on skincare and maintaining your skin.
Absolutely.
That you can be a little bit more frugal about the makeup that you're purchasing, the colors.
Absolutely.
And I think that fits with what you're saying.
Absolutely. That is absolutely what I'm saying. I said, your skin is the foundation. Okay, and everything else you add on top, right? So if your skin is great, your skin is clear, you don't have to wear a lot of makeup. You can wear possibly a tiny bit of tinted moisturizer, and that could be you know what I'm saying? So if your skin is great and you're taking really great care of your skin is hydrated, you can actually be frugal on the other end, Yeah. Yeah, I teach women that on my YouTube channel about there are a lot of skincare tips and a lot of natural things that you can do for your skin, like using plain Greek yogurt. It's great for it's full of lactic acid, you know what I mean? And so it's a great moisturizer. It helps to fade hyperpigmentation and all other sorts of things. So there are a lot of tips on there, things that you actually have in your kitchen. If you have a breakout, apple cider vinegar is great for a breakout. There are lots of things that you can use that don't cost a lot of money that can help your skin really clear.
Right. That's fabulous.
Yeah.
Marcus, all of those things that you share have to do with this fabulous digital community that you've built. And your Beauty Therapy Sunday, you've cultivated more than 300,000 viewers, which in today's noisy marketplace is incredible. Can you share with us what you've learned about fostering this genuine connection with your audience on this social media space? Because it's incredible.
When I started Beauty Therapy Sundays, my concentration was really mostly on skincare and makeup. And it was a slow growing process, But I found in the space what people were mostly interested in, they were interested in me. So because they know what I do, but they really didn't know very much about me. And so the turning point for me is when I started putting more of my life into the channel, more about my interests, my life. So I changed the channel recently. The channel is not only about beauty and skincare and makeup, but it's about wellness and it's lifestyle. It's about fashion. It's about my life. It's about me going to a restaurant with my friends. So I think people know about Marcus. What is Marcus's life like? In one of the videos, I took them out in a day in my life. I took them on set with me. I took them to a restaurant with me, and talked about the foods that I like. So I found that when they saw me more as a human being rather than an artist, then there became a connection because they said, "Oh, he's like me." He does the same. He likes to do the same things I like to do. So there has to be that human connection. And when that human connection is born, that's when people start connecting with you. And so that was really the turning point for me when I decided, I just want people actually said that to me. Someone says, Marcus, we want to know more about you, about your life, about what you like to do. And I started doing that, and that really opened up that space more for me.
Yeah. And you have to be courageous to let people see the real you in real life.
Yeah.
I compliment you on that.
Yeah, and I will do sometimes I call real talk. I don't know if you've seen any of those, where I actually explain things about my journey as a human being. And you have to be really vulnerable and courageous to do that, to expose yourself in that way. And I exposed myself in some ways that my friends called me and said, "I can't really believe you shared that today." So, but I said, if I'm going to do this, I have to do it.
Right.
Because I'm not perfect. I am perfectly imperfect. Mm-hmm. And when I realized that, everything changed in my life. I don't have to be perfect. I make mistakes. If I can help you through the mistakes I've made, that's a great thing. Yeah.
And I think, Marcus, that's why you're so successful in that realm of social media, because you let your guard down and you're a real person. And by showing that to other individuals, they like that. And that's what they want to see is that you're not as successful. You may have all these accolades, but you're a real person.
I am, yeah. And I tell, I remember sharing something in one of my real talks. I said, I used to be a hider. I hid behind my career. I hid behind beautiful clothes. I hid the facade of success of my career. All these things in order to not to show who I was, because I was afraid, But once I broke through that barrier and realized, Mark, no one's perfect. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to pretend to be anyone except who you are, and then my whole life began to really open up. And now, honey, I'm 150. I don't care what people think. So I really don't, girls. I really don't, but yeah, it's, so that is important, to really be authentic and to really connect with people and really let people be vulnerable and let people see who you are, let people know what your journey is. I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, that's so important because them themselves are going through the same thing.
Absolutely. We all.
When they see somebody else do that.
Right.
They go, well, that person, it's a real person. I can move on.
Right, and it also when you're able to be authentic and open up and be vulnerable. Sorry, these braces sometimes I get vulnerable with people. It gives them license and permission to do the same. Yeah. That's basically what it does.
Yes.
Well, we had a guest on not too long ago, and she talks about corporate client and what you do for yourself. So, this person was talking about you can feed yourself, you can feed your soul, and it doesn't make you any money, but it feeds your soul. Or you can work for a corporation and make all this money, yet they stifle your creativity and you have to do what they're doing. Mm-hmm. So when a corporate client comes to you, Marcus, and they're asking for you to develop this content for them, how do you balance your artistry with the corporate and marketing part of the situation?
I'm a person that I can't sell myself for money. I'm just that person. I don't live in that space. I cannot live in that space. So when someone comes to me with anything, I have to believe in that product. I really do. When I was on ABC7, I would get sent tons of products, all the time, because these people wanted me to mention their product in my segment. And so I would look at the products, read what the product was supposed to do. If that product did not do what it said it was going to do, it wouldn't get on. I would send products out to my friends and say, okay, you guys, this product is supposed to do this. I want you to use this for 3 weeks. Tell me what you think. It would get back to me and say, oh, it was great, Marcus, or that it didn't work the way it was supposed to, didn't get on. So there always has to be some integrity behind anything that I'm going to support, because I'm not really a natural salesperson. That's not who I am. I'm more of an artist. I'm really not that salesperson that could just sell a product. I have to really believe in that product if I'm going to push it, if I'm going to sell it. And if I really believe in it, then that all is very natural for me, because I'm very excited about that product. When I was working, when Gillette, approached me about shaving, of course, I'm a man. I know how to shave, And I've used their products for years. And so I believed in that. That was simple. That was a no-brainer, for me. And so I really have to believe in the product, and there has to be some integrity behind that product. Yes, of course, we all have to make a living. We all want to make money. Of course we do. But at the same time, I also want to be able to look at myself in the mirror and be proud of the person that I see. And that's just very important to me. And I always tell my young people, anything you do, passion. We hear that word all the time, don't we? My passion. This is my passion. Young people will say that. And so I'll say to them, I said, what does that mean to you? What is your passion? What does passion mean to you? And they kind of don't really have an answer, really, And I say, your passion is something that you love so much that you would do it for free. That's your passion. And when you love something so much, you're going to give 200% to that. And I always tell them, if you're doing what you are passionate about, the money is going to come.
Correct.
It is. It's just because you're gonna make a way. You know what I'm saying? It's going to come, because that passion is going to be contagious, and people are going to start supporting you. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, Marcus, speaking about being genuine, we do this segment called Rapid Fire.
Okay.
And part of it is just the audience loves to get that little extra peek behind the curtains. So
Okay.
I'd like to ask you 5 questions. They're just fun questions. And if you could just answer with the first thing that comes to your mind.
All right.
And you're willing to play, so here we go.
Okay, yeah. Okay, all right. I always get nervous about this stuff. Okay. All right, here we go.
Really easy.
Okay.
You're on a desert island. Brush or tool?
Oh, for me right now it'd be a toothbrush, because I have braces. That was easy.
Wonderful smile.
That's easy.
Holy grail of skincare prep products you can't work without.
I always start with moisturizer, so it would be moisturizer. So it would probably be CeraVe, because I use CeraVe almost on everybody that I work on first. So that would be the first thing that I pull out. Yeah.
Okay, great. City that gives you the most beauty inspiration, and we know you're a world traveler.
That would be New York City. And I say that because people are so authentic about their style. They're authentically themselves, and they carve out their particular path, their particular style. I love that feeling of New York. I love the beat of New York. And whenever I go there, I'm always recharged, particularly. And I love Harlem, so I love the feeling, that urban feeling, and all the chicness, and the clothes, and the makeup, and the hair. I love all of that. Yeah.
It's fabulous. Favorite beauty era to refer to? 20s flappers, 60s mod, 90s glam, or now?
Well, you want to know my favorite would be the 30s and 40s.
Yes.
I love that glamorous age of Hollywood. I love Harrell. Remember Harrell, the famous photographer that was all the black and white photos and the contoured faces and the beautiful fashions. I love the 30s and 40s. I love glamorous Hollywood. I love that. Yeah.
That's my go-to too.
Yes. Yeah.
That.
Yeah.
I wish I would have lived more in that era.
Yeah.
One word that sums up your approach to makeup.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that question.
One word that sums up your approach to makeup.
Authentic.
Yeah, that's what we all should try to be every
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, but a better version of you. But it still should be you. You know what I'm saying? You have to come through. You have to come through the makeup. The makeup shouldn't hide you. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. Yeah.
I'm not surprised you said that because, Marcus, you are such a genuine, beautiful soul. And I'm just so grateful that you
Thank
agreed
you.
to support Artists, Icons, and Entrepreneurs. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I really had a really great time. And I really mean that from the bottom of my heart. I thank you so much for thinking of me to come on. I really appreciate it.
So, Marcus, before you leave, can you tell the audience where they can find you?
Yes, on Facebook, Marcus Geeter Beauty. On Instagram, Marcus_Geeter. LinkedIn, Marcus Geeter. In TikTok, Marcus Geeter 2. On Fanbase, Marcus Geeter. Blue Sky, Marcus Geeter. So I'm easy to find, you know what I'm saying? So, and my YouTube channel is Marcus Geeter, the makeup therapist. That's my YouTube channel.
You're like Superman. He's here. He's there.
Well, thank you again, Marcus, for coming on our podcast, and we love you.
I love you guys too. Thank you so much.
And we'll see you on social media.
Yes, exactly.
Listen to you all the time, attend your classes, and just love you. So
thank you.
Thanks
Thank
again.
you.
And when we come to Chicago, let's all go to dinner.
Oh, please. Oh, please. Oh, yeah, please. Let's do that, you guys. Okay. Seriously, let's do that. Yes, let's do that. Yeah, I would love that. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Marcus.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Have a great day.
You too.
Wow, what an episode. That wraps up another exciting edition of Artists, Icons, and Entrepreneurs. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you're leaving inspired and ready to chase your dreams. Don't forget to follow us on social media and subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode over at youtube.com/Artists, Icons, Entrepreneurs, as well as Facebook at Lulu Benavides, on IG at Lulu Benavides, at Evolve Hair Solutions as well. And don't forget to visit our website at lulubenavides.com and evolvehairsolutions.com to stay updated. Until next time, keep dreaming big, creating boldly, and making your mark on the world. Thanks for listening, and take care, everyone.